In 1978, the average Chinese citizen earned less than $200 a year. Most people rode bicycles. Televisions were rare. The country had just survived famines that killed millions. Fast forward to today, China is the world's second largest economy. It builds cities faster than most countries build parking lots. It launched a space station, dominates global manufacturing, and holds over $1 trillion in U.S. debt. Here's the uncomfortable part. They did all of this without a single contested election. No opposition parties, no free press, no ballot boxes that actually matter. So how does that even work? How do you build an economic superpower when the textbooks say democracy and prosperity go hand in hand? For most of modern history, we've been sold a simple story. Democracy leads to freedom. Freedom leads to markets. Markets lead to wealth. It's a clean line, a moral arc, the kind of thing that fits on a bumper sticker. And for a long time, the evidence backed it up. Europe rebuilt after World War II with democracy and Marshall Plan money. Japan opened its economy and became an industrial giant. South Korea transitioned from military dictatorship to thriving democracy and Samsung smartphones. The pattern seemed obvious: get free, get rich. China looked at that pattern and said, "We'll take the second part." In 1978, Deng Xiaoping took control of a country that was ideologically pure and economically broken. Mao's revolution had gutted the economy. The Cultural Revolution had destroyed institutions. People were loyal to the Communist Party, sure, but loyalty doesn't fill rice bowls. Deng made a bet. He believed you could have rapid economic growth without political freedom. You could open the economy without opening the ballot box. You could let people get rich as long as they didn't ask who was in charge. He called it socialism with Chinese characteristics. The West called it impossible. Turns out they were both wrong. Here's how China actually did it, and it's not what you think. Step 1. Controlled experimentation. In 1980, China created special economic zones in cities like Shenzhen. These were capitalist playgrounds inside a communist country. Foreign companies could set up factories, private businesses could operate, profits were allowed. But here's the key: these zones were experiments. If they failed, the party could shut them down and pretend they never happened. If they succeeded, they could replicate the model nationwide. Shenzhen went from a fishing village of 30,000 people to a megacity of over 12 million. The experiment worked. Step 2. State capitalism. China didn't just open markets, it rigged them. The government maintained control of major industries through state-owned enterprises. Banks lent money not based on profit, but on national priorities. If the party wanted high-speed rail, banks funded high-speed rail. If the party wanted solar panels, factories produced solar panels. This isn't free market capitalism. It's capitalism with guardrails and a very heavy thumb on the scale. Western companies loved it at first. Cheap labor, massive market, minimal regulations. They rushed in. Apple built iPhones, Nike made shoes, GM sold cars. But there was a catch. Foreign companies had to partner with Chinese firms. They had to share technology. They had to train local workers. Essentially, they had to teach China how to compete against them. And China learned fast. Step 3. Long-term planning enforced by short-term power. Democracies have election cycles. Every few years, leaders change, policies shift, long-term projects get abandoned when the opposition party takes over. China doesn't have that problem. The Communist Party plans in decades, not election cycles. They can build infrastructure projects that won't pay off for 20 years because no one's getting voted out in the meantime. The Communist Party published something called the 5-year plan. It's exactly what it sounds like. Every 5 years, the government sets economic targets, growth rates, industrial goals, infrastructure projects. And here's the absurd part.
they actually hit those targets, not because the economy naturally performed that well, but because every government official, every state bank, every state-owned company was measured on whether they delivered the numbers. Miss your target, you don't get reelected, you get reassigned, or worse. It's not efficient, it's not pretty, but it's effective. Let's talk about what this system actually costs. China's growth miracle runs on three things: debt, repression, and a deal with its citizens that's starting to crack. First, the debt. China's total debt, public and private, is over 300% of GDP. Local governments are buried in loans they can't repay. Property developers have collapsed. Evergrande, once the world's most valuable real estate company, defaulted on over $300 billion. The government papered over these cracks with more lending, more stimulus, more infrastructure projects that don't make economic sense. They built entire cities that sit empty, highways no one drives on, airports with no flights. Why? Because growth is the mandate. Slow down, and the system breaks. Second, the repression. This isn't abstract. China monitors its citizens with over 200 million surveillance cameras. It tracks online activity. It censors the internet. It jails dissidents. It operates re-education camps in Xinjiang. The party's logic is ruthless and simple. Stability enables growth. Dissent threatens stability. Therefore, dissent must be crushed. You can't protest your way to higher wages. You can't vote out corrupt officials. You can complain online, but only until your post gets deleted and your account gets flagged. Third, the social contract. For decades, Chinese citizens accepted this deal. You stay out of politics, we'll make you richer. Your kids will have better lives than you did. Keep your head down, hard work, and prosper. It worked, until recently. Youth unemployment is over 20%. The property market, where most Chinese families store their wealth, is collapsing. Wages are stagnating. The demographic time bomb is ticking. China's population is aging faster than almost any country in history. The deal is fraying, and the party knows it. For years, Western analysts predicted China would either democratize or collapse. The theory went like this: as people get richer, they demand more freedom. Middle classes don't tolerate authoritarianism. Economic openness inevitably leads to political openness. China spent the last 40 years proving that theory wrong. But here's the irony. China's success has created a new problem. The very strategies that built the superpower are now dragging it down. State capitalism worked when you're catching up. You copy technology, you subsidize industries, you build infrastructure. But once you're at the frontier, copying doesn't work anymore. You need innovation, and innovation requires risk, failure, and freedom to challenge authority. Democracies are messy. They're slow, they're frustrating, but they allow for creative destruction. Bad ideas fail, new ideas emerge, leaders get replaced. China's system doesn't tolerate failure. It punishes dissent. It rewards loyalty over competence. It stifles the very dynamism it needs to keep growing. The debt is mounting, the demographics are darkening, the easy growth is over. And the Communist Party's legitimacy rests entirely on delivering prosperity. No growth, no deal. So what does this mean for the rest of us? China proved you can build a modern economy without democracy. That's not a comforting thought if you believe freedom and prosperity are inseparable, but it's reality. The question is whether that model is sustainable. Can you keep growing without political freedom? Can you innovate without intellectual freedom? Can you maintain stability when the economy slows and the population ages? We don't know yet. China's experiment is still running. But here's what we do know. The rest of the world is watching. Authoritarian governments everywhere are taking notes. If China succeeds long term, it rewrites the rules. It proves there's an alternative to liberal democracy. A model where the state controls the economy, surveils its citizens, and delivers growth without granting freedom. If China stumbles, it vindicates the old story. Democracy isn't just morally right, it's practically necessary. Right now, we're somewhere in between. China is neither collapsing nor thriving. It's grinding forward under enormous strain, trying to manage contradictions that may be unmanageable. In 1978, China made a bet. You could have capitalism without democracy. You could have growth without freedom. You could build a superpower by controlling everything and everyone. For 40 years, that bet paid off. The question isn't whether it worked. It did. The question is whether it can keep working. Because the thing about deals with no exit clause, they only hold as long as both sides believe they're winning. And in China today, a lot of people are starting to wonder if they're still winning at all.